Hi, my name is Scott Jackson. I'm a physician assistant with Providence Orthopedics and a longtime user of Dragon, naturally speaking. And I've created this video to try and help others learn how to create some basic voice commands in Dragon. So the most basic types of voice commands are those that instruct Dragon to perform keystrokes on the keyboard, just as if you were typing them yourself. So since we're limited to the keyboard, these types of commands would obviously could be simply spitting out lines of text, but you can also use or leverage the use of keyboard shortcuts that are available in Windows and within certain applications that run on Windows. Here's a list, for example, of some of these. Most of us are familiar with Control-C, which is copy, Control-V, paste. So copying and pasting is a function that's easily done with keyboard strokes rather than using a mouse. And these shortcuts are all designed to help you to do certain either small functions or help navigate either around Windows or within a certain application. And you'd be amazed at how much you can accomplish using keyboard strokes rather than a mouse. Different applications such as Epic have their own keyboard shortcuts, if you didn't know. So within the Visit Navigator you could utilize these shortcuts, such as Control-Shift-P you jump right into the problem list. It'd open up for you and be ready for you to do some work in there. And then you could put in Control-Shift-N and jump right to your progress note. And from there jump to follow-up, Control-Shift-F, for example. So all of these are essentially keystrokes that you can leverage for the development of some more robust commands if you wanted to do that. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to use an example that I think most people could appreciate, and that is to launch a smart phrase that you've already created within Epic using a voice command rather than having to type it out. Okay, so let's open up Epic, and what we're going to do is I have this smart phrase, CV Consult, that launches a template for me for a consultation within my progress note. It helps to organize my visit there. So save that, and first let's verify that it works. Got this new patient up. We'll go to progress notes, and again, if you're new to Epic, the way we launch a smart phrase is dot and then the name of the smart phrase, CVCONSLUT. There we go. Space or enter to launch it, and then there's my template ready to go. Okay, so let's cancel that and discard it, and we'll come back later. Minimize that, and now let's go up here to our Dragon window up here, Dragon bar. We're going to go to Tools and then Command Browser. The Command Browser is where you can find commands that you've already built. That's where so here in your personal folder or in user-defined folders where you'd find commands that you have created. These folders up here are folders that contain other commands that somebody else has created that you can use if you know what they do. So let's go ahead and we're going to start to build a new command. Hitting New opens up the command editor, and we're going to start with naming it. So I'm going to name this Insert Consultation. Now keep in mind that the names that you give these commands should be unique enough that it's not going to fall within your normal speaking patterns. For example, if you're dictating a long narrative and you happen to utter the phrase that is the same as a command that you've built, Dragon will recognize that and launch that particular command in the middle of whatever you're dictating. So make sure that your command names are unique enough that that's not going to happen. So they're calling it insert consultation. Under here, this is a description for your own reference, that if for example the name isn't obvious to the function of the command, you can put a little description in here to remind yourself what it does if you come back later and are wondering that. This window here is the folder where this command is going to be saved to. So the default is user defined, which is this one here. And I think I'm going to save this to my folder where all the rest of my commands are. Okay. This next line of, we call these radio buttons, allows you to define where you want this command to be available. Where within Windows do you want it to be available to run? Global means that it can run anywhere within the Windows environment. Application specific means that it can only run within certain applications that you define. And then getting even more specific, you can confine the use of this command within a certain window, either within an application or within Windows itself. And these can be pretty complex. So I just hit global for all of my commands. I've never had a problem with that. So next we want to define what kind of command that we're going to be doing here. And so Dragon gives us a couple different ways that we can build commands. Some are easier than others, and I prefer to use advanced scripting. It's by definition a little more advanced, but they execute a lot faster, meaning that there is a much less of a lag between the time that you utter the phrase to launch it and to where it actually executes. So the basic command structure is you've got sub main at the top, end sub in the middle, and Dragon does that for you, and it starts you here in the middle. It also puts an indent here, which is not necessary. If you got rid of that indentation, it wouldn't change anything at all. I think Dragon does that just for organization's sake, especially if you've got a long command that you're creating here. So going back to our example, what we're trying to do here is launch that smart phrase called CV Consult by voice command rather than having to type it out. And so every line of a command has to have an operator, which is a particular function that you want Dragon to do. And so we're only going to use one in this example. It's called SendDragonKeys, SendDragonKeys, SendDragonKeys. And the name is descriptive of what it does. It's sending the keystrokes to Dragon that you want Dragon to execute on the keyboard for you. So whenever you're using SendDragonKeys, the keystrokes that you want to define need to be within quotes. So we'll go space, open quote, and so if you remember to execute a smart phrase in Epic, we have to do a dot first, then the name of the smart phrase. You could type .cv consult, and then to execute it, you either hit enter or a space. So we're going to put a space here and close quote, and that is it. So if you wanted to create your own voice command of some other smart phrase or smart link or something, this is all you got to do. SendDragonKeys space open quote dot the name of the smart phrase, include a space here, and then end quote, and you're done. I'm going to save that. Now just verify that it got saved. We'll go back into my folder here and find it, make sure it exists, and it does. Insert consultation, it's right there. Open it up. .cvconsult space. Okay, so we're going to save that. Now we're going to test it out. So let's go back to Epic. Okay, we're back in our test patient here. We're going to open up the progress note. We'll click in that window and make sure that the cursor's where it should be. And now I'm going to turn on the microphone and execute this function. Insert consultation. And there you go. Get rid of that. So that's an example of a command. Now let's go back to the command browser and let me show you some of the other types of commands that I have developed. So if you remember, I showed you this list of keyboard shortcuts in Epic. Control-Shift-C to go to Chief Complaint, for example. Let me show you how I've automated those. Here, go to allergies. Let's open up that one, see what it looks like. So, Control-Shift-A. Oops. Control-Shift-A gets us to allergies. Okay. Now, notice the difference here. SendDragonKeys is the same operator we used before, space, open quote. Now, to differentiate text from a function that you want Dragon to do, you want to encase a function within these curly brackets so that Dragon can tell the difference. Because I could have in between the bracket and that open quote, I could put in some text here, and what would happen is, you know, it's going to execute each of these keystrokes, and so you'll have this text before it executes this function here. Let's get rid of that. So everything within quotes is a keystroke. So again, a function needs to be within these curly brackets, and Dragon has a format. So instead of Control CTRL, now if you want to hold down more than one key at a time, you've got to have the plus in between, and there's no space here. So Control plus Shift plus A, Control Shift A to go to the allergies activity in the Visit Navigator. Okay. Same thing here, go to follow-up. Now here's an example of where I've actually utilized one of these other radio buttons, Windows specific. Again, you don't have to do that. I'm going to move back to global. So here, this is called go to follow-up. We want to go to the follow-up activity. So again, within curly brackets, which is again within quotes, you have Control-Shift-F. Just like I've defined here. Control-Shift-F. If you did that yourself, let's go to Epic now. So if I hit Control-Shift-F, the follow-up activity comes up. Alright. Now I'm going to show you different, I don't know where that came from. Close. Alright. One more command that I want to show you before we're done here. I'll save that. an example how you can have multiple lines of instruction. I have this one called SendDragonKeys. So I'm a physician assistant, and I want each of my patient visits, my notes, to be sent to my supervising physician for a review. And then I also want to make sure that since I'm a specialist, a consultant, that any referring physicians get a copy of my note, as well as the primary care physician. Okay. If you can imagine, to do that in Epic, let's go back to Epic here. Open a follow-up. So say, for example, the primary care physician is not available in the system here, and I can't just hit that Add PCP button, which would then populate the PCP here. Then what I would do, if I wasn't using Dragon, I would have my MA, Terry, get a message which says, please send a, if I could type, copy of this to PCP and referring physician. Okay, I'm not a very good typer, that's why I use Dragon. Now, if I wanted to copy this to go to my supervising physician, Dr. Lovell, and I don't want him to get the same message, then I've got to do another one. I've got to go to close, then I've got to open it up again, and then I've got to send a separate copy to Dr. Lovell. Okay, so that can be kind of repetitive, and it takes some time. There's a lot of clicks and movements of the mouse. Now, I've automated that. If we go back to Dragon, I call it Send Copies. And so if we can read the lines of code here, SendDragonKeys Control-Shift-F. That's going to take us right to the follow-up activity. Here, this is a different operator called wait, and you go space, and then you signify in seconds how long you want Dragon to wait, because sometimes there's a lag, isn't there, between the time that you hit a button and the time that Epic does what it's supposed to do. And so in this case, I'm going to have Dragon wait 2 seconds for Epic to get to the right spot, and then I'm going to have Dragon tab 16 times. Again, we're not using the mouse, and so let's go back to Epic. If I start somewhere else, I'm going to go Control-Shift-F, jump me right in there, and now this is where the cursor starts. So now I'm going to go tab 16 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 times gets me here. Okay, back to my command. And now I'm going to wait half a second for all those tabs to happen. And then I'm going to have Dragon put in the P number of my medical assistant. Her name is Terry. And then, so here's an example of where I've combined both text and a function within the same line here. So again, it has to be within quotes, and then here, this is going to be text, and then whatever's within these curly brackets, that's a function. So we're going to go P402246, enter. And go back, so that's going to put Terry's name in here, and then we're going to tab down to here. 7 tabs, and then I'm going to put in, send a copy of this to the patient's PCP and or referring physician if there is one. Thank you. Wait half a second, and then F9, which is, that's how we close that menu. Okay, so we're going to close that, and then, because I don't want Dr. Lovell to get that same message, we're going to open it again, Control-Shift-F, tab 16 times again. That's Dr. Lovell's P number. Wait half a second, and then just close it because I'm not in this case I'm not going to send him a message, I just want him to have a copy of that note for his review. And then F9, we're done. So let's show how that works. Save that, go back to Epic. We'll start somewhere else. Send copies. Okay, so it didn't put in that message. It didn't put the message here because there was, I think I didn't have enough tabs in there. I think that particular command is under development still. But you can kind of see how it did a lot of that and would have performed flawlessly if I had known if it was going to work right. So that's the end of this video. Hopefully it's been a reasonably good demonstration on what, and not, hopefully not too confusing about how you can create some of these commands on your own. And if this goes over well, maybe we'll do some more of these videos. Thanks. Bye.